All right, so we are now working on part two, which will mostly be focused on triggers. Let me finalize kind of going over what we did with the views. So many of the views, we kind of just inherited what's already there. Often that will work based on the routing. You'll always kind of want to check your routing and see if there's any pitfalls or voids tickets can fall into based on the views that you're setting up. Luckily, US Federal is a little more all-encompassing, so we don't have to worry about that. So what I did was defined the various views that we already had, the my assigned support needs assignee, et cetera, et cetera. After talking with James, we did determine we do want a new one just to highlight these 24/7 entitled customers. So we defined that there where the status is less than pending. It contains one of those special tags. The priority is not low, priority is not medium. And then the ending conditions of form is support, form is emergency. So yeah, that's basically kind of how we're going to do that. That'll ensure that the specialized tickets for high and urgent, which would be the emergencies and the highs, will show up in that view and be visible. So the new and open ones, it'll make it a little easier on the shift transitions for that specifically. So with that in place, now we get to work on triggers. Admittedly, triggers are the more complicated part of all of this. So that is something that we want to kind of really hammer on. But yeah, so based on our routing, what we see is the first part of where we start out is a lot of different checks to determine if the ticket's going to even be open. So I'm going to call this first one creation checks. I know I'm original on naming with this one. So all of our things will have conditions. We'll have an all and any, DVD, DVD. We'll have actions. And that's what all of our, all of our triggers are going to have. So I copy this right here, paste it there so we have it present, and now we can kind of get started. So first one, not really shown on the routing chart, but it's important just the same, is reject non-monitored inbox requests. Helps if you spell things correctly. And really that's going to be ticket is created, and I'm going to use the any field in case we need to scale this out more, but likely you won't need to. So receive at is, what is that, support at. I don't remember the exact email offhand, but that should work for that. We do add tags and what is it? Close unmonitored inbox. We're going to email the user, specifically the requester, and we're going to set the status to closed. Now, because we have a TBD here, I'm going to put email content to be determined. We're going to kind of leave that there. So that's actually a really good starting point for us and kind of gives us where we're going from here. So we're going to paste the next one. And so looking at our routing here, is there an unassociated user present? So that's going to be kind of the first thing we need to do. So reject tickets containing unassociated user tag. And this is going to basically be ticket is created. Tags contain at least one of the following and unassociated user. And then our actions are going to be, we're going to email the user, specifically the requester, and status closed. This is basically for if someone who is unassociated replies, makes a follow-up, any of that weird stuff based off that bad ticket, we can basically reclose it out and say, hey, sorry, we can't proceed with this. So email content TBD. All right, so moving right along. Next, we're going to, let's see, believe we need to reject tickets. So reject tickets from unassociated users. So we looked at our routing diagram. That's kind of the next check. Oh, nope. Our next check is requester is an agent and the form is not IR. So, okay. Enter here and we'll copy this and come back to that in a bit because we are going to still need that. Okay, so reject tickets from GitLab agents on non-license issue forms. Yeah. All right, so we got ticket is created. Organization is GitLab. Channel is web form. Form is not license issue. We are not going to have any conditions, and our actions here will be add tags. We'll do submitted via GitLab email. We're going to email user, the requester. And once again, we're going to add a comment, email content TBD. Okay, now we can work on rejecting tickets from unassociated users. So our conditions ticket is created. You'll notice a lot of these in the category repeat themselves, especially on the conditions. So let's see. Now we want the organization is null. Actions, we're going to add tags unassociated user. We're going to add the follower change loops. We're going to email user requester TBD. We're going to notify target email sales pubsec@gitlab.com TBD. And notify active webhook post update to ticket TBD on what it'll do. So I'm going to copy that real quick. We're going to add that a couple times this time. And this is webhook content. Technically, this one should be target content. All right. So what we want to do based on our routing, okay, we've got past all the instant rejects. So we've got those out of the way. Yep, all these will handle what we've got. So now we're getting to our actual core routing stuff. And what we want to do is ensure that tickets that come in are going to get what they need to start out. So thinking offhand here, we're going to need something that sets form to form for emergency tickets created via email, because they're not going to have a form set by default with that. So we need to make sure we've got that covered. So ticket is created. Received at is emergency at. Yeah, it should be all we need for that. And all we're doing is form emergency. Cool. The last thing that we need to do, which is something you may not be aware of unless you've done a couple of these, which I have, we need to handle follow-up tickets. They can do some weird things. So we're going to do clean up follow-up tickets. We want to ensure they follow routing too. So channel is closed ticket, because that's what it is for follow-up ticket. Status is not closed. And ticket is created. Yeah. Okay, so we want to set the assignee to null, round robin to no. Add the tags, follow-up ticket, and remove tags. I'm going to put TBD because I'm not fully sure. That'll be something we'll flesh out as we test. Tags to be determined. Okay, so that should knock us out for all the different creation checks we need to do and ensure that we are at this point right here. What is the request type? So we're getting more into these actual nitty-gritty routing things. Okay, so we need to set the schedules because we can see how in the routing that's kind of something that happens regardless on the ticket. So I'm going to copy all of this, give us a new one, and I'm going to call this schedules. I know, super original, right? So we're going to have one for set schedule to 12 by 5, and that's for non-emergency tickets. And that'll be schedule is not standard business hours. If you need to remember, reference down to the schedules. You can see that in part 1. Form is not emergency, which was why it's so key that we set that form up here. We need to make sure the form is set correctly. So form is not emergency. And the only action this needs to do is schedule is set to standard business hours. Now, if you remember, in our routing, we had a specific case where we didn't immediately set this because we don't want to immediately worry about the 24 by 7 for high tickets and support because we need to potentially do this page thing. So we need to know if it is business hours or not. That's why we're going to initially, for all non-emergency tickets, they're going to get the standard business hours. All right, so our next thing we need to worry about is going to be set schedule to 12 by 7 for standard emergency tickets. And that should be schedule is not standard business hours. Nope, sorry, standard emergency hours. Form is emergency, and tags contain none of the following, and that's going to be the 24 by 7 emergency support, and the same tag with manual at the end so that they can be manually triggered in the interim. And we're just going to set the schedule to standard emergency hours. All right, so the last thing we need to worry about is the 24 by 7 emergencies. So what I'm actually going to do here is copy this right here, because for the most part, they're going to look real similar. But what we are doing is setting 24 by 7 for, call it entitled customers on emergency tickets. All right, so this one we need is not 24 by 7 business hours. Form is emergency, and this time contains at least one of the following. And we're going to set our business hours to 24 by 7 business hours. So that'll ensure emergency tickets from the start are using the correct one, and then the rest of our tickets are going to use 12 by 5 for now. So that should handle our schedules based on what we've got so far in the routing, because you can see how emergencies, it's going to be determined here. That's the next step. But for highs, we're going to set it later. So with that in mind, we need the next category. And this is something I've just learned from practice. We're going to need something to handle priorities for cases where priority just isn't present. So I'm going to call it priorities. I know I'm real original on these. So set priority to low. And that would be priority is null. Customer severity is tab 4. And the action we're going to take is priority low. Now, I'm going to copy this a couple times because we're about to do that for medium. So let's do medium. It's going to be tab 3 and medium, or normal, however you want to call it. I interchange between them. Okay, so we're going to need one for high. And this is where we're going to get a little different. So priority is null. Form is not emergency, because that's the only time that because that's the only time we'd have to worry. And the any is going to be customer severity. Severity is sev. We're going to do sev2. Copy that. Sev1. And hot. All right, so the reason we need to worry about that is a high priority, a customer could file a ticket saying it's Sev1, and that's fine. We do want that known, but we're going to set the priority to high because an urgent response is only for emergencies. So with that in place, the last one we're going to need is one for urgent. So we're going to go here, urgent. And this one, we need to make sure the priority is null and the form is emergency. And yeah, we're going to set the priority to urgent. We don't need these any's, so we'll just replace those back with TBDs. Okay, the last thing we need, just in case, is to set priority to, we're going to say medium by default. And this is for the cases where priority is null and customer severity is null. In the cases where that happens, we want to make sure that we set the priority to medium. And because these run from a top-down order, even an emergency where they didn't set priority or customer severity, which they can, it's not on the form, but still would ensure it is going to use urgent because this one, the set priority to urgent, is going to run before this would. And once this is run, priority is urgent, so it would never apply here. Okay, so we've now got these set up. We've got a few different categories, creation schedules, and priorities. So now we actually need to get into a little bit of ticket setup. So what we want to do is both set up and do a little communication, because obviously we want the customer to know we've received their ticket, we're going to work it, all that fun stuff. So I'm going to call this new ticket setup because, not really original on this one. All right, so I'm going to do new support ops ticket. This one's pretty easy. Ticket is created. Form is support ops. And we're going to want to tag for these comms. That way, if somebody changes or whatever, just to be sure we don't get dual communications. Contains none of the following. And we're going to call it new ticket comms because, again, I'm just not original. We're going to add tags, new ticket comms. And we're going to email the user, the requester, TBD. All right, so once again, we've got this. So email content to be determined. Okay, so we need to communicate for a couple other kinds of tickets. So let's do LNR ticket next, because that's going to be just as easy. I'm going to, let's see, I only want this once. Okay, yeah, that's what I thought I was going to do. So let's do it like this. We don't want it to cut. We want separate comments so we remember. But the only difference here is form is LNR. And let's copy this again because we also have new, we have a new license issue ticket. Form is license issue. Email requester, DVD, email content, DVD determined. Okay, so let's see, we have that. We also have upgrade assistance tickets. So we need one for that as well. Upgrade assistance ticket. And the form there is going to be upgrade assistance. I know these are the more simpler ones. And like I said, you'll see a lot of copy paste when you're in the same category because they're categorized, they're grouped together. That's the whole point. All right, so with that in mind, we've got all the basic ones. Emergencies we're going to handle separate, away in their own little category because emergencies are very special. So what we do need is Let's see, ticket communications for support tickets. That's a little trickier. So let's do new support ticket for non-entitled customers on high priority. Let's do new high priority support ticket. That sounds much better. Okay, and if we're doing one for that, for non-entitled customers, we're also going to want one for, let's see, we're going to need one for low and medium. So low plus medium. There we go, low. And just for my own sake, there we go. All right, so the conditions on these: ticket is created, form is support, tags contain none of the following, new ticket comes. Any is where we are going to need something, so priority is low, priority is medium, and we're going to, for our actions, add that, and then email user requester TBD. And I'm going to copy all of that because this is going to be very similar to it. Let's get rid of that. Except we would need to worry about when the priority is high. So these will be TBD, and we can add priority is high. So we also need to worry about our special ones. So tags contain none of the following, and I'm going to scroll back up to copy those just to save myself some typing. We don't want this running on our special high priority tickets, and our actions are going to be, the exact same. So let's add our comment, content TBD, content TBD. Sure, we added that for others. Okay, cool. That should be all we need to worry about for new tickets, because like I said, emergencies are special and we're handling communications for high priority 24/7 separately. So our next category that we should really knock out, let's go ahead and knock out those emergencies. And unsurprising, emergencies. All right, so starting out with this one, let's do this. Set default values for emergency tickets. Form is emergency. Tags contain none of the following. Federal emergency agency. All right, and here's where we get a little thing. So we're going to reset our priority to urgent. Is this redundant? Yes, but we want to really stress that. So we're going to set customer severity to SAV1, channel received at email is emergency at, add tags, federal emergency. Okay, that'll ensure that no matter what happens, our priority is set how we need it. So if the ticket is in the form emergency, it's going to ensure it always hits these boxes. And that's going to be important for us. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and copy this, get ourselves another one. All right, so we need to worry about page on call and notify requester if during business hours. No suggestion, fun. I'm just going to keep it like that. All right, so set it during business hours. So during business hours is yes. because we want that. Form is emergency. Tags contain none of the following. We're going to do PD federal integration, and let's do one for off hours notification. If we have one for on hours, we're going to need one for off hours. All right, so add tags. We're going to do the pager duty one. Since we're paging, we're going to notify targets, pager duty integration, and email user requester TBD. So we're going to do target content TBD, and we'll have email content TBD. And it just occurred to me that I put these in the wrong section. So let's paste them here. There we go, because any is TBD, and later on we'll clean this up to get rid of any of the TBDs that we don't need. All right, so if we have one for on hours, we're going to need one for off hours. So let's do, we're going to have, let's do post in Slack if not during business hours. So a lot of this is going to mirror this. So we can kind of copy this, but this is going to be new. And yeah, so it's going to be a lot of the kind of same things. Let's copy. Well, we don't want to do that. Add tags, but this time we're going to do off hours just so we can differentiate it in metrics. We want to email the user requester. That's going to be important. So let's do at PVP. Notify target. No, wait, that's a webhook. Sorry, div webhook Slack post in support US federal and TDD. All right, so we're gonna have webhook content TDD and email content TDD. All right, so that should get us pretty set up. I don't think we need any other ones here, so I'm going to go ahead and delete this. But if we look at this, what we have is no matter what, we're setting these default values that are important, and then we're paging if on hours, and then we're posting in Slack if not hours. This works with the 24/7 because they are always on business hours. And if we look back at our schedules, we can see how we set that up here, so we're in good place for emergencies. All right, so we kept saying we're going to come back to the highs. It feels like a good time as any to go ahead and address those. So add a new category, and we're going to call these high priority tickets. All right, so we know we need one for paging if it's not during business hours. So let's do page on call if not during business hours and 24/7 entitled customer. And we're going to do during business hours is no. And the reason this works is we haven't set the 24/7 schedule as of yet. So form is support, priority is high, tags contain at least one of the following, and that's going to be our emergency ones. I kept those on a little notepad beside me so I wouldn't have to worry about that again. And tags contain none of the following. Evening shift notified is what James and I had talked about. And the reason we're doing this is so that it doesn't page constantly on every update, because obviously that would get very annoying very quickly. So add tags, evening shift notified, and we're going to notify target pager duty integration TD, target content TD. Okay, so that'll handle the page for that. Next, we need to set the schedule. Let's go ahead and set schedule to 24/7 for entitled customers on high priority tickets. All right, so schedule is not 24/7 business hours. Form is support. Priority is high. Tags contain at least one of the following. We're going to need these two up here again. Nope, sorry. We're going to need, there they are. There's our tags that we need. That should be all we actually need for that. So what we're going to do is add tags. No, we're just setting schedule, sorry. So schedule, and we're setting it to 24/7. Because at this point, we want it to be on 24/7, and we no longer need to check if it's during business hours. Okay, so looking at the next one, we noticed that we had not done any comms for the customer. So we need to do new ticket communication. So new ticket communication for 24/7 entitled customers on high priority tickets. There we go. Are all conditions. We're going to have form is support, tags containing at least one of the following. I'm actually just going to copy this because, yeah. And then none of the following new ticket comms. All right, so for our actions here, we need to add tags, new ticket comms, and then email user requester DVD, email content DVD. Okay, and the other thing that we do, it's just something we do on federal, we do it in global too. So an internal note about ticket being high priority. This one's pretty simple. So form is support. Priority is high. Tags containing none of the following. High priority reminder. All right, so our actions, we're going to add tags and notify webhook, post update to ticket. And we'll do webhook content TBD. Okay, that should be all we really need for the high priorities. So at this point, we're kind of past the routing because at this point, when we look at this, we've pretty much hit all these boxes that we needed to hit. And we're now at the ticket has worked normally, nothing special during the process of lifecycle routing wise, and then our end part. So we're now at this part where we're at what I would call the general life cycle of a ticket. So here's where I like to kind of start defining the rest of my categories. So let's do myself some extra TBDs here. We're going to have one for internal notes, one for ticket metadata, one for assignee. We'll do one just called lifespan. That's going to be lifespan cycle. That's going to be like your generic, this just happens during a ticket at any time. We'll have one specifically centered around just adding, removing tags. We're going to have one for notifications. We're going to have one for SSET. And then I think the final one we would need is integrations. But that should cover us. What we'll need to start doing is defining all these various little components. But let me go ahead and stop the share there because this is already a pretty extended one. So we'll handle the rest of these in part 3. Look forward to seeing you in that video.